Two ways the regulative principles are a device, by Krishna's mercy.
Quote, the gopis have set the standard of devotion for the whole world. By following in the footsteps of the gopis by constantly thinking of Krishna, one can attain the highest perfectional stage of spiritual life. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Volume 1, Chapter 46.
Infidelity to the disciplic succession and the ancient tradition, adjusting to the time, place, and circumstance, keeping the ultimate goal of the human life in mind, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada offers the concept of the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. This is for those interested in achieving more than what would be the result of the typical cycle of life.
You are born. You go to school. You get a job. You get married. You have children. You grow old. You die. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't complicate things. Don't question the process. Be happy along the way. Take a seat and go along for the ride. What would be the purpose to such principles? Why introduce regulation at all? Is yoga not something to be felt? Why should an adult human being torture themselves? Why be fanatical in the name of religion?
Depending on how seriously a person accepts the vow, the regulative principles generally involve both nvritti and pravritti, the negative and the positive, the restrictions or prohibitions, or what not to do, and also the activities to include, or what to do.
Quote, liberation from material contamination is called anarthanivritti, indicating a diminishing of all unwanted things. This is the test of development in devotional service. If one actually develops the devotional attitude, he must be freed from the material contamination of illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat-eating. These are the preliminary symptoms. When one is freed from all material contamination, his firm faith awakens in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 23.13 Purport.
On the negative side is restricting meat-eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit sex. The positive is Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, taking the time to listen and focusing on glorifying. These regulative principles are like a device for simultaneously achieving two distinct purposes. 1. And how to overcome the influence of Maya. Maya is something. Though it is illusion, it represents a certain kind of energy. Its influence is to basically trick us, taking something for what it is not, mistaking a rope for a snake, forgetting that we are mortal, thinking we will live forever, identifying with the body. These are the ways Maya influences us. To overcome that influence is difficult, especially for those who are embodied. We are accustomed to accepting the false identification since before we can remember. Everyone else we know does the same. Why would we think any different? The regulative principles align with transcendental life, the first purpose to which is to remove the false identification. I am spirit soul. I am Brahman. I am part of the collective energy that powers the entire universe, both at the micro level and at the individual instantiation. Following the regulative principles reinforces this understanding. The more I am in control of my senses, the less agitated I will be. The clearer I am in thought, the more possible it is that I will not only remember the principles in theory, but actually realize them in practice. 2. And how to come to the platform of spontaneous love of Krishna. This is the more important goal, but also the one more difficult to achieve. When I am under the influence of Maya, my supposed love will go in various directions. It might be towards a paramour. It might be towards a group of people who have no idea who I am. It might be towards a pet or a child. While the sentiment appears genuine, that kind of love can change in a moment. I go from loving to hating. My affection is based on conditions, on how I am treated in response. If I get offended, if the love is not returned, it is possible for me to change. We only love in this way because there is a pure version of the same feeling already deep within us. This is the very meaning to our existence. Through the illusion of Maya we forget. The regulative principles are for practically realizing what the Guru teaches us, that we all love God in a pure way. This is our Dharma. It defines who we are. This property can never be stripped from the individual. Spontaneous love of Krishna is not a cheap thing. It is not something to be declared or awarded at a ceremony. It is neither an honorary title nor something exchanged through supplying physical supporting evidence. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has provided the example of the gopis of Vrindavan. Their spontaneous love for Krishna is so strong that nothing can get in the way. Not even Krishna can stop them from exercising that loving sentiment. The love continues whether Krishna is in their direct presence or not. In closing, whether direct vision got, or in their presence not, whether with so much to do, or relaxed and comfortable too, whether their praises singing, or only condemnation bringing, gopis spontaneously loving so, ideal dharma to show.